All right, we've got news. We've got news. You know what the news is? The news is that we've got news. Morning. And I got to have a cup of Joe. Got to have my cup of Joe here. Let's get to some of this stuff. It's so crazy out there. So what I'm thinking here, this is news, this is commentary, this is opinion, because we need more news, commentary, and opinion. So keep that in mind here as we go through some of these news stories. And that it changes daily. It changes so fast, the news, from day to day, that we can't even keep up with it anymore. And with Ohio political news, I also want to invite everybody, check out our X marks the spot, because we're going to be going over some of the news stories and stuff like that. For instance, let's hear Kerry Coleman. Kerry Coleman was on our show, our podcast show. I want you to listen a little bit of what he has to say here.
Agitation, all of these attacks on ICE actually start because, quite honestly, we've been rounding up across this country illegals with ICE pretty much all of the Trump administration, the second term here. And by the way, Obama did it to thousands of illegals.
That's a good point. Obama did it. Why is there so much uproar right now?
And there were no riots. There was nobody trying to block the streets or attack ICE agents during Obama. But coincidentally, these attacks on ICE just started when the fraud scandal busted loose and became available for public information to the American people up there with the Somalis in Minnesota. Right. Then they started attacking ICE to divert attention away from this massive fraud in this country.
We can't put it any better than that.
It is very coincidental.
Very coincidental. So that's Casey Coleman. Kerry Coleman. Maybe I get their name right. Kerry Coleman. He's running for the 13th Congressional District seat against Emilia Sykes, and we wish him the best of luck. He was on the podcast. He had a lot of great things to say. He is a strong candidate, and so we're pushing him, to get across the finish line, because Emilia Sykes, the Democrat, this is Akron, this is Summit County, this is some of Canton. She's been doing nothing, which is, we complain a lot about the Republicans not doing anything. The Democrats are 100 times worse. All right, so we've got to get Kerry Coleman across the finish line. He used to be a weatherman, too, I think, for Channel 19. Maybe you remember the name and stuff like that. A couple other things I want to talk about real fast here. This was canceled last Monday, but we are going to make up for it. This is abolishing property taxes. It's been rescheduled for February 2nd. We've got the winners here again, Brian Massey, John Pleshnik, and Chris Galloway, auditor of Lake County. They're all going to be out there taking your questions, and we're going to hit them with the hard questions right off the bat. I'm telling you, first of all, we're going to be live streaming this. I'm going to be out there emceeing it. You come out, ask your tough questions. This is, again, at the Auburn Career Center. You can see it right there, Auburn Career Center in Concord, Ohio. So it's a little bit on the east side, upper east side of Ohio. If you happen to be in that area, get out there in person. We're going to live stream it so you can also check it out. But going back to Kerry Coleman here, because it's so important, what is going on with this whole fraud thing? And I think this one picture, I got to show you this one picture here. I think this kind of just sums it all up really well right here. Okay, this is it. All right, so they've got the Somalian cookie jar with lots and lots of cash in there, and you got Ilhan Omar, and you've got the Attorney General, you got the Mayor Frey, Tampon Tim Walz, all of them in that slush fund. And this slush fund, I was listening to Trump last night. Will Cain was speaking to him from Fox News. He's saying it's $20 billion, but he says, you know what? It could be double that. Can you imagine the fraud? Minnesota's not that big of a state. The fraud could exceed $20 billion and get up to maybe $40 billion. All right, so that's the problem. The other thing that people have to understand here is why the Somalians? What's going on with the Somalians? Well, the Somalians are, they're a race of people in Africa that have come over. They've migrated into Columbus. We have the second largest Somalian population. Minnesota has the largest. But they're close knit. They work together. They're not here for any. They're not here to become part of our culture at all. They're here. They're all on welfare, basically. They've opened up these phony daycare centers. A lot of them are making a good money, but the daycare centers are also used to funnel this money to other organizations. It's not just that the Somalians are getting rich here. Everybody's getting rich, and they're throwing some crumbs in that to the Somalians, because if you go after the Somalians, hey, you're racist. You know, how dare you go after them? Okay, so it's kind of like the perfect setup for them. What is going on in this country? What is happening? I got this off of. I want you to watch this for a minute to get an idea here.
War right now, bro, and right now what's coming?
Bolshevik Revolution. This was from 2023 Joe Rogan show. But listen to what this guy is saying. This wasn't that long ago. You know, less than 2 years ago he was saying this. Bolshevik Revolution is happening in this country right now.
Coming up is all the pride stuff is going to be, this gay pride stuff is going away. And the next thing you're going to...
And that's interesting, too. All the gay pride stuff is going to go away. And the LGBTQ is going to also go away. And they're going to focus on immigration. They're going to focus on immigration.
Our immigration riots. This is going to be right around the next election. And now you start seeing these they're putting little breadcrumbs out, man. Little breadcrumbs. Oh, I saw this one thing in Chicago. Oh, yeah, illegal immigrants are upset about where they're staying. And these illegal immigrants who speak no English are holding up perfectly written English signs saying we're tired of how we're being treated. And now you're starting to see this over and over again. Eric, so everyone's always like when all these Republicans...
I just want to say a couple things here real quick. I'm going to get back to playing the rest of that. But he's talking about the Bolshevik Revolution. What are we talking about with that? We're talking about an uprising within Russia that overthrew the government. It was a citizen-led uprising that overthrew the government internally. And that's what's happening here in this country right now. But it's not organic. It isn't organically happening. Russia is behind it. China's behind it. There's a lot of bad actors behind it to make this happen. So please don't assume what's happening in Minnesota is organic or natural. It's been planned. It's
governors are like
years.
Sending these immigrants all over the country. Everyone's like, bro, they're moving assets. I know it sounds crazy, but that is 100%.
What do you mean they're moving assets? What do you mean?
Dude, these guys coming into the country, bro. Have you seen them? A lot of them are Chinese, and a lot of them are military-age people. Too. And I'm telling you, they're moving, and this is what's going to be right around 2024 election, immigration riots, people going nuts, and as listen to this, and you'll start seeing all the little breadcrumbs. They're moving assets.
What do you mean, like military people?
Dude, study the Bolshevik War. It is happening in real time.
Okay, so again, what he's referring to is, we had the borders wide open. It wasn't just Somalians coming over and Mexicans. Of course, you had a lot of murderers, and you had rapists, and you had people coming over that were dealing fentanyl and killing hundreds of thousands of Americans. By the way, that just seems to never get mentioned. But one protester or two protesters gets killed, and it's gone completely haywire with the media. But that's all planned. We have to understand. I've been involved a little bit in politics on and off behind the scenes, and the one thing that I can say with assurance is that nothing happens in politics that wasn't planned. Okay, nothing happens by accident in politics. They want you to believe it's accidental. Anybody who's picked, anybody who's chosen to run for these offices and stuff, it's all really well thought out. That's what's happening here. The borders were wide open, and you had Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. They were the ones, in charge. And thank God that Trump survived that assassination attempt in Butler, PA. This country would be gone. It would be over because it would have been defeated internally. And that's what that whole Bolshevik revolution is about: overthrowing a country internally. To change the government, if you change the government, if these globalists and elitists and people infiltrate this country, are running the country, we don't have the country anymore. So when he's talking about assets coming into this country and being deployed everywhere, he's talking about all those military-age men, the Chinese, the Russians, whatever. They were coming in. We don't even know where they went. They are assets to create a civil unrest. This has been really, really well planned out. If anybody has been, if you have the opportunity, go on to Cam Higbee on X. Okay, I got this off of that. This right here is a manual. This right here is a manual given to everybody in Minnesota and elsewhere on what to do during these protests. It's look how long this is. This spells everything out for you. And then whistles. I love this part here about the whistles, because you got to blow the whistle, intermediately, intermittently if you see an ICE agent. But if the ICE agent is doing anything provocative, then you blow the whistle with a long stream, and you don't stop, and that tells the other protesters around to come and gather. And this whole manual goes into great detail about what you can't and can't do. Ironically, I was reading some of it, the one thing they tell you not to do is bring a gun to the protest, okay? Even their own instruction manual is telling you, don't bring a gun to these protests. But look how long this is. This just goes on and on. You have to read it. And it's right. Here's else is what's going on, which I find absolutely fascinating with this, is that Trump has spies within the protesters. Okay, the DOJ has spies within the protesters that pretend that they are going along with everything, and then they're feeding information back to the Department of Justice. So that's how you get these manuals. But this manual that I just showed you, that's given out to the lower level people, the ones that really do a lot of provocation, that really get in the face of the ICE officers and stuff. Those are higher up. They're a little bit more secretive. They get more money, a lot more money, because they're putting their lives on, they're risking their lives a little bit more. But you see how well coordinated everything is? It's crazy. It is absolutely crazy. So when you have somebody on the inside, they were able to gather these Signal chats, okay? The app, Signal app, that you can put on your cell phone. And they were communicating. Protesters were communicating with that. But the higher ups are the ones who run these chat groups. And those are the people you're after. So the DOJ had spies and stuff so that they could infiltrate higher up and figure out who these people are. I think they've got a lot of information. I wouldn't be surprised they got a ton of information on Walz. And, if you listen to Tim Walz, he's kind of like, well, maybe we could work with President Trump. Yeah. He's saying that because he knows his goose is cooked, probably, right? He's saying that because he knows his goose is cooked. I got a couple other stories here I want to talk about. This one here with President Trump. Let me pull this over. Where is it? Here we go. Okay, so this is right off the X. Off our X here. But breaking, a new poll just dropped, finding Americans support President Trump's mass deportations by 10 points. 10 points. He is actually gaining popularity, President Trump. Gaining popularity over everything that's been happening. Do not listen to the man behind the curtain. This whole gimmick, this leftist propaganda gimmick, and that's all it is. It's just a lot of propaganda. CNN got into this too. Look at this. Maybe I get some audio here.
Feelings that people have. So this is about as blunt a question as you can get. Deport all immigrants here illegally. I will note the ABC News poll asked about undocumented immigrants. So we have slightly different questions, but these were all taken within the last
So look
month.
at those numbers.
And there's real
Look at those
uniformity here.
numbers.
That's what I really think you see. You see real uniformity. Deported all immigrants who are here illegally, 55% of the New York Times. Marquette, 64%. CBS News, 57%. ABC News with a slightly different question, 56%. So what you're seeing essentially here is a very clear indication that a majority of Americans...
Now, what you're seeing there right now is a majority of Americans want deportations. We want deportations. And when you look at those pollings, you got the New York Times, Marquette, CBS News, ABC News. Those are all leftist polling organizations. And when they say that it's in the upper 50s to 60% of the people want all deportations to happen, that number is probably even much more significantly higher than that. Kind of amazing. I tell you, the stories, they just keep on coming. Okay, so now President Trump has said that he is sending Tom Homan to Minnesota. So Tom Homan is going to be going over to Minnesota. He's tough but fair, says Trump. And again, here Trump is saying that there's $20 billion in welfare fraud in Minnesota. And last night he was saying that number could be double that. Imagine that, $40 billion in fraud, waste, and abuse. I like this one here. ICE did not bring disorder to your city. Disorder brought ICE to your city. Let's just keep that to where it is. All right, changing gears here for a minute. Save the Act. The SAVE Act is so that we have secure elections. And if we don't have the SAVE Act, if they don't pass that in Congress, then the midterms are going to be really tough for Trump, because you know the left is going to do everything they can to make sure they at least take the House during the midterms. Right now, we only have 2 Republican advantage in the House. There's a few Republicans seats that need to be filled, so that 2 could be 4 or 5 eventually. But that is just razor thin. It's not uncommon for 20 or 30 seats to switch hands. And usually what happens is the incumbent president will lose 20 to 30 House seats. That's been the norm. There's only 2 times when it's been an exception to that over the last 50 years. And again, I was watching Will Cain last night on Fox, and he was reminding Trump about that. We have to make sure that this is one of those exceptions. If Trump loses the House, they're going to impeach him. Now, he will not be impeached, but if the majority of House members in Congress are Democrats, nothing's going to get done. It's just going to be 2 years of bashing Trump, and nothing will get done. So the SAVE Act has got to get through the Senate, and we have to get it to a floor vote, and they have to pass that. And what the SAVE Act is you got to show ID. You have to show ID. And one of the things I don't understand here in Ohio is that when you are going to vote the day of election, which is when most Republicans vote, you got to show ID. You show your driver's license, and they match up the signature. But if you do vote by mail, you don't show a driver's license. You simply put down the last 4 digits of your Social Security number. And I don't even know how well they check that. So it's ripe for fraud. All of the fraud happens through mail-in balloting, and the SAVE Act is going to save that. And then we will win. If it's fair, honest elections, the Republicans are going to win. They're going to win in a landslide. I have no problem with that. No problem with that at all. Yeah, the SAVE Act must become law. Alex Triantafilou, he is the chairman of the Ohio Republican Party. He says, great to see that Ohio Senators Marino and Husted are co-sponsoring the SAVE Act. I got news for you. They better. They better sponsor it. Oh, my Lord. So, one other thing, too. When we got over the weekend, I wanted to play this because it was March for Life.
This is Danny. He's a really good guy. And I just wanted to say, They all have lives. They're all going to grow up to be great people. They're all going to have kids. And if it was for abortion, none of us would be here. So you're looking at the future right here. And don't abort your babies. Don't abort your babies. Fire me up, Darren.
Don't abort the babies. That's awesome. So, again, that didn't get a whole lot of publicity by the mainstream media, but they were out in Washington, D.C., well over 100,000 marching for life, the pro-life march, and those young guys are just fantastic. But no, one or two agitators in Minnesota who were agitators. When you look at Renee Good, what did she do? She was told to get out of the car. There was an ICE agent in front of her with a gun. Now, if somebody is in front of you and you're in your vehicle and they've got the gun pointed at you, it's probably a good thing to listen to them. She backed up, and then she wanted probably to scare him as she started to go towards him somewhat. That is insanity. That is the complete definition of insanity. Plus, she'd been doing a lot for these protesters. She was on the inside. She was one of these, I believe, she was one of these paid protesters. And, you know, like I said, the more daring you are, the more money you make. And then when we look at Preddy, who got shot and killed, but he had that pistol on him. He had a 9mm, I think it was, a couple of rounds, he had like 24 extra rounds. That's a lot to bring to a protest, and you're not supposed to bring a gun to a protest. And people say, well, wait, you're allowed to take a gun to a protest. This is America. You can carry a gun. You can't carry a gun into a bar and have a few drinks. It's illegal to do that. Even if the bar owner says that you are allowed to bring your firearm into the bar, you can't do it if you have a beer. That's against the law, because you're in an environment where you're being impaired. The alcohol will impair your judgment. So when you're at a protest, a lot of the same thing happens. If you're out there in the street like he was doing, your judgment could be impaired. You can't be carrying a gun. There are restrictions. There are restrictions to carrying the guns. It's terrible. Well, anyhow, it's cold, stay warm. We're going to look at more news stories. I'm going to try to do this every day as we get more and more news stories going and stuff. Just keep you up to date, and it'll keep me up to date as well. So thanks for tuning in today, and we'll talk to you soon. Take care.